Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to another edition of On the Mark, straight talk across the Narrows. I am Troy Liburd and I will be your host for the show this evening, and tonight we hope that it's going to be another wonderful edition of On the Mark. Tonight, however, on the Mark, we want to start the show with a special presentation, and that will be a national address by the Honorable Premier of Nevis and leader of His Majesty's loyal opposition in the federal parliament, Dr. the Honorable Mark A.G. Brantley. So we will cut away immediately for that national presentation by the Premier of Nevis.
My fellow Kitishans, Nevisians, and residents, I speak to you now with a heavy heart. Last evening our country lost yet another young man in what now seems to be a never-ending cycle of youth-on-youth violence. I believe I speak for all honest, hard-working, right-thinking members of our country when I say that this vortex of crime and violence gripping our country is unprecedented and unacceptable. Whilst crime spirals with almost daily news of brazen attacks, the government and the police seem incapable of responding, and our communities are gripped by fear. I have not joined the chorus of blame on the issue of crime. I have not sought to use crime as a political tool. I have said and continue to say that if we as leaders argue over crime, if we continue to be divided over crime, if we continue to see crime as a political opportunity, then we succeed only in weakening our resolve and emboldening these criminals. To this end, I am pleased to say that prior to this address, I spoke at length to Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, the Honorable Dr. Terence Dew, and I also spoke to Mrs. Natasha Gray Brooks, the leader of the People's Action Movement. I thank them both for reaching out and expressing their willingness to come together to lend our collective voices and hearts to this fight. Crime is and has always been a societal problem. Who are the criminals? They are our sons and daughters. They are our brothers and sisters. They are our cousins and classmates. They are our boyfriends and girlfriends. In short, the criminals have come from our midst. We have created them, and we must now find ways to purge them from our midst. My address to you this evening comes not from a place of blame or political grandstanding. It comes from a place of deep pain and a burning desire to raise my voice in the rescue effort for my country. At this time and in this situation, our country demands that each and every patriot rise up to defend it from the scourge that has now gripped us. All must be invited to the table with their ideas and solutions. None must be left out. Government and opposition, church and chamber, schools and civil society, all must be invited to the table to come up with a comprehensive plan to address violence in our society once and for all. Crime is now a clear and present danger to the gains we have made as a young nation. The enemies are at the gate, and men and women of goodwill from Cairn to Cotton Ground must put aside petty political and personal differences and stand together to repel this attack on our country. Our Prime Minister and his cabinet cannot and will not solve this problem alone. St. Kitts and Nevis now needs every able-bodied man and woman to man the ramparts and defeat this enemy that threatens to engulf us all. The current situation is unprecedented. Hitherto, our most murderous year was 2011, when we had some 34 persons killed. We are now at 26, and it's only August. At this pace, and unless arrested, our country is on a track to have its bloodiest year in history. We are now seeing women and even young children being targeted by violent criminals. My brothers and sisters, we have crossed the Rubicon of old and entered a new and dangerous period in our history. It is clear to me that blaming each other is not working, and that nice speeches without action are not working. It is also clear that the current levels of violence in our society are well outside the capacity of our security forces to handle. Unprecedented threats demand unprecedented responses. It cannot and should not be business as usual. I offer, therefore, these points for consideration. We should immediately invite regional and international assistance. The RSS must be deployed in our communities, and we should seek intelligence support from the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, and Israel. Our friends in the United States must be called upon to do more to restrict the flow of illegal guns and ammunition from their country to ours. We must introduce a top-to-bottom review of our security forces to weed out bad elements. There should be mandatory and ongoing polygraph testing for all police, army, customs, and prison officials. We must target known criminals and their associates and ensure that they have no respite and no places to hide. All leave and holiday for our security forces should be immediately cancelled. Our policemen and women must not be in the comfort of their homes or barracks, but deployed into the communities. We must deploy greater physical and electronic surveillance tools so that our crime-fighting response is led by more technology and intelligence gathering. We must immediately reintroduce moral and ethical instruction in our schools, starting at preschool and continuing throughout our children's school life. This must be coupled with the reintroduction of youth groups in our schools, such as Boy Scouts, Girl Guides, Pathfinders, Cadet Corps. Our children's participation in youth groups should become a mandatory part of our curriculum. We must reintroduce an aggressive alternative pathway program. The new program, whether called Peace, Elevate, or by whatever name, must emphasize that those marginalized youth who genuinely wish to be productive citizens will be supported with jobs and economic opportunity. We must not pay people to stay home and not work. We must not reward bad behavior. Any new version of the Alternative Pathway program must insist that those who benefit personally are also bringing benefits to the community at large. I am here talking about jobs, providing seed capital to start businesses, expunging criminal records to assist former offenders with job opportunities in the private sector, inviting and incentivizing the private sector to play its part in giving these young men and women a second chance, providing free training, especially in vocational skills such as plumbing, air conditioning, electrical, auto mechanic, shade house agriculture, and agro-processing for our youth. We should amend the anti-gang legislation to allow police to detain suspected gang members and their affiliates for up to 7 days without charge while investigations are ongoing. The current 72-hour maximum detention without charge is wholly inadequate to allow proper investigations to occur. We should look to the Jamaican example of zones of special operations to include limited and targeted states of emergency where necessary. Lastly, I reiterate my cry that the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of National Security must extend his hand across the political aisle and seek consensus and active assistance from the opposition. As leader of the opposition and as Premier of Nevis, I and my team stand ready, willing, able, and eager to assist. But we cannot invite ourselves to the table. Only the government can ensure that all stakeholders are given a chance to lend their voices and ideas to a solution to this perennial problem of crime and criminality. The matters set out in this brief address are in no way to be seen as a complete solution. But these are ideas which, coupled with ideas from other stakeholders, can allow us to build a comprehensive response to an urgent and dangerous problem. Some ideas will require urgent and immediate implementation, while others are intended to have more medium and long-term effects. What I am sure of, however, is that doing nothing is no longer an option. I extend tonight my hand and the hand of my beloved Nevis to the Honorable Prime Minister and his team. There can be no progress and no lasting and sustainable development unless and until we are at peace. We have shed enough tears. We have spoken enough words. We have held enough meetings. What our country needs now is decisive leadership and action. Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Terence Joe, the ball is now in your court. May God grant you wisdom, patience, and understanding as you lead us through the valley of the shadow of death and take us to the promised land of peace and prosperity for all. Thank you, and may God have mercy on us all.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are tuned into On the Mark, and that was just a national address by the Premier of Nevis and leader of the opposition in the federal parliament, the Honorable Mark Brantley, addressing the situation that we have in the federation, of course, with the proliferation of violent crime, and a lot of it resulting in death by way of murders. And so certainly something needs to be done in the federation. So that was an address by the Premier of Nevis, setting out his views and offering some ideas that we could probably implement or put into practice, and of course calling on the Prime Minister and the leader of the Federation to get to work on the current situation. Of course, the situation as it is, I think the Premier said we have entered into a new and dangerous era. And I don't think that the situation as it is right now, that anybody could feel good about it. So we really need some action. It's time for us to, as they would say, to put up and to let's get something done, because the current state of affairs, we certainly cannot continue on that vein. So let me now do the usual introductions for On the Mark, and then of course we will come back to that. And I know that callers out there will be eager to get in to probably share their comments or their views on the statement that was just made by the Honorable Premier. So I want to welcome everybody listening to On the Mark from wherever you are listening, the four corners of the world. Of course, we know that On the Mark is a very popular show. It's a way for persons, especially out there in the diaspora, to get a feel for what's happening here on the home front. So I want to welcome you in wherever you are listening to On the Mark from. Please feel welcome. For those of you at home here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, of course, welcome to On the Mark. On my way here to Van Radio this evening, all day the weather has been fine, the sun has been out in all its glory all day, but this evening on the way here we got a little shower of blessing, and it's always a wonderful thing when the rain falls, because we need the rain to look after the plants and so on, and to keep Nevis green. So I was very happy that we had that little shower of blessing on the way to Van Radio. I want to send a big shout out and big, well, I could call it belated birthday blessing to Pamela Brooks, or Mommy Pam as we would call her, who celebrated her birthday yesterday. I was by the house last evening. We had a good get together. Myself, the Honorable Eric Evelyn was there also, and quite a lot of other loved ones, family members, and well wishers. And it was a really, really good time. On Sunday, we had sort of a surprise special church service for Pam. And when she got to church, she was very surprised. Everybody was there dressed in the same color code, and we were all showing our love and appreciation for her. So again, I want to say happy birthday to you, Pam. And I also want to send belated anniversary greetings to the Honorable Premier Mark Brantley and his beautiful wife Sharon. They would have celebrated their 30th anniversary just yesterday. I know none of them look like they could be celebrating a 30th anniversary, because they both look very young and very sprightly still. But love is a beautiful thing. It keeps you going, it keeps you young, it keeps you looking good. So congratulations to you, Honorable Brantley, and to your lovely wife, Mrs. Brantley, on 30 years. Of course, we do have a lot of lows to talk about. We started out the show on that note, and I would want to express condolences to the family of Mr. Devon Paris of the Stony Grove area. I have known his father, we call him Lebe, for many years since I was a youngster. He would always come around and what we used to call a long time ago the Bryson truck. I think nowadays they call it the drinks truck or whatever, but long time ago in Nevis, when you're young, they used to say the Bryson truck is coming. And so Lebe is somebody who's a well-known person in Nevis, in the community, and I want to send out condolences to him and to the entire family on the passing of young Devon Paris, who is another victim of gun violence and so on here in the Federation. He was a victim of a violent incident that took place over on St. Kitts. I also want to send out condolences to the family of Mr. I think there's a Paris of Craddock Road, right? Well, let me go ahead and send condolences to the family of young Jamani Smitten. Yes, I think that was an error, but we'll correct that. Condolences to the family of young Jamani Smitten, and this is a 9-year-old youngster, student of the Ivor Walters Primary School, and just the thought of this, really is heartbreaking for me, certainly, and I know for many persons. We're talking about a 9-year-old youngster here, and I think we could understand why it was important for the Premier to come out and make that statement that he just made. So I want to send out condolences to the parents and to the entire family of young Mr. Smitten. A thing like that should never ever be acceptable in our good federation. Certainly we love to say that St. Kitts is sweet, and we love to say that Nevis is nice, and we cannot be either sweet or nice when we have individuals going around and perpetrating these type of violent crimes, especially on the youngest and most vulnerable of us. It's bad enough when it's two adults, or it's bad enough when it's adults going at each other, but when you start to include children, then it just becomes terrible and even more unacceptable. So, of course, condolences to the family of young Jamani Smitten. I also want to speak a little bit about the passing of the former Minister of Government in the federal government, Glenn Ghost Philip, who would have been laid to rest in a beautiful homegoing ceremony just yesterday over on St. Kitts. And Ghost is somebody who was well known in St. Kitts. Even before he became a political figure, he was well known in St. Kitts in the basketball arena. For those persons in the federation who follow basketball, Ghost was a big name in basketball, one of the more dominant basketball players in the federation. He would have gone on, however, to get into the political arena as a candidate for the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, and would have been successful in gaining election to the Federal House of Assembly, and then in becoming a Minister of Government. So I would like to send out condolences, of course, to his family and to all of his friends and supporters and his well-wishers. Certainly when somebody would have given of themselves in service of the country, it is definitely worthy of recognition. And so I would want to recognize Glenn Ghost Philip for his contribution to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and of course to say condolences from us here at On The Mark to all those who mourn his passing. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to On The Mark, and I am Troy Liburd, your host for this evening. We're about 25 minutes past the 8 o'clock hour, and of course this is a call-in show, so I would want to open the lines at this point in time for callers who would want to call in with their comments and views, and especially in light of the fact that we just had the statement by the Honorable Premier of Nevis. Of course, when the lines are open, the numbers to call are 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Let us go to the lines. We have our first caller for this evening. Caller, you are on the mark. Good night.
Good night, Honorable Chuck Liburd.
Yes, good night. How are you doing?
Matthew 6, verse 33 and 34. But seek ye first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Good night.
Good night. What a wonderful and fitting scripture. What a wonderful and fitting scripture. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. And we need a lot of God in the Federation at this point in time, certainly, to get us through what we are going through in the Federation. I don't think any one person has the solution, but all of us working together, and all of us, showing our outrage, our utter outrage to these things, and all of us pulling together and saying, no, this is not acceptable. We can certainly turn this thing around. Of course, we are in 2024. We are in the month of August, and we have already recorded 26 murders for this year, and that is totally unacceptable. I think the other day, earlier this week, I would have heard a statement from the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, the Honorable Gaston Brown, expressing his utter outrage about what is happening in Antigua. And Antigua is not anywhere close to where we are in St. Kitts and Nevis in terms of the amount of murders. And Antigua has a population, I think, either close to or just above 100,000 people, which is about twice the population of our federation, and they have less than half of the murders that we have. And the Prime Minister there has already come out, showing his outrage and calling for some drastic action there in Antigua. And so we here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we can certainly not afford to sit back on our laurels and be comfortable with the situation. We can't afford to be comfortably numb in a time like this. We have to come out. Each and every individual has a part to play in this. We have to ensure that we are all doing our little part. It can't just be up to the police, can't just be up to the Prime Minister, even though the government has a role to lead. The government has a role to set policies, as the Premier would have said in his statement, that he has to call on the Prime Minister to really set the tone for the security forces. And of course, let's not just leave it up to our local security forces. This situation is so far out of hand that we need some additional assistance, whether it is from the RSS in the region or from security experts from the United States or Canada or from the UK, or as the Premier would have suggested, also from places like Israel, because they have a lot of experience in dealing with situations similar to what we are dealing with in the Federation. So certainly it has to be an all hands on deck approach for us here in the Federation. And I want to join wholeheartedly with the Premier and endorse what he would have said in his presentation about the spate of crime here in the Federation. Certainly this cannot be acceptable for us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So I want to actually take some time until we get a caller to go back through some of what was highlighted by the Honorable Premier in his statement, and to pick out some of the what I would call the big points. I was making some notes as he spoke, and one of the things that he highlighted early is that our communities are now gripped by a sense of fear. We have heard people who are saying, I want to be in early. I don't want to be on the street, in the evening time, because they want to make sure they're in, because you don't know when or where something is going to happen. We have prided ourselves here in the Federation on having what we would refer to as a safe environment. Here on Nevis, we just came out of Culturama 50, and for all intents and purposes, Culturama was incident free. We didn't have any shootings or murders or anything like that during the Culturama. Of course, we had a host of people coming in from all over, folks with Nivision heritage and their friends and so on, folks with Nivision heritage and their friends and so on, who would have come to Nevis to be a part of the Culturama and to be with us here. And everybody felt safe in Nevis. Everybody was able to move around at all hours of the day and all hours of the night, and we felt safe. And that is the type of atmosphere that we want to have all across the Federation. So this notion that people are feeling unsafe in their homes, that people are being gripped by fear and that type of thing, fear of criminals, because now we have a case where one young lady was the victim of gun violence, and then we had a child just at the tender age of 9 who was also a victim of gun violence. And when people see the violence start to turn away from who some would refer to as persons who are involved in gang activities or nefarious activities, and you see regular citizens now starting to be affected by crime, then it's going to affect the thinking of persons out there in the community. So as the Premier rightfully said, that some of our communities are now gripped by a sense of fear. So certainly now is the acceptable time to act. We can't wait any later. We are already at 26 murders for 2024, and every single one of them is one too many. So we don't want to go any further than 26. I notice that our lines are very inactive tonight, so ladies and gentlemen, the lines are open. The numbers to call 869-469-1616 or 869-469-1700. Of course, I'm always prepared to talk. Some would say as a politician we love to hear ourselves talk, but certainly I always want to get the views of the folks out there in the general public, to get a sense of how people out in the general public are feeling about what's going on in the Federation. And at the moment we are talking a bit about the spate of crime and violence, and in particularly the murders that have happened in recent time in the Federation. And it would be good to get some of the ideas, what people in the general public are thinking, what the government can do, what they would want to see happen. The Premier would have made an address outlining a lot of what, in his opinion, and of course in the opinion of us here on Nevis, from the perspective of the Nevis Island administration, what we would like to see, because of course this affects all of us here in the Federation. When someone is a victim of a murder on St. Kitts, it affects us here in Nevis, and when someone is a victim of a murder here on Nevis, it affects us across the entire Federation. Because when they talk about these things, they will always talk about St. Kitts and Nevis as one, and so we have to ensure that we are pulling together and working together for the betterment of the Federation. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to On the Mark, of course, and I would okay, we have a caller. Let's go to the lines. Caller, you're on the mark. Good night.
Yes, good night, Troy. Good night. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful, and how are you?
So, I would like to know what the penalty for firing you with a gun and having what the penalty?
I know that in the past there was a minimum of, I think, 5 years. There was a mandatory 5-year sentence, but I believe that in recent times, maybe about 2 months ago, the federal parliament would have met to pass laws as it relates to persons being found with guns and so on. There was an amnesty about that time 2 months ago, and then subsequent to that some new laws were passed with stiffer penalties. So whatever the penalties are, I believe they are stiffer than 5 years.
I think I heard that it was a case of 15, but just check it out and
it should be around there. I did not want to call a number because I didn't have the information in front of me, but I know that legislation was passed recently, and that it has increased from 5 years. So I would not be surprised if the number is now up to 15.
yes, that's what I was trying around. I think they want to move it to either 15 or whatever, because this gun situation is getting really terrible in all Caribbean countries.
Yes, certainly, it's a big problem.
All Caribbean country, and and it is, I can't see where these young men trying to throw away their life for a try. Try to throw away the life, and when they get old and they're in jail and they see reality hit them, they want you to come and feel for them and even be sorry. Too late. It's when you don't commit your crime and do everything, and the person that they kill asks you for pardon, and you indeed it, and now here start to tell the family and the public you're sorry. This is the thing that hurt me, try. That's the hurt the public.
Definitely.
You understand? And I think the public need to get serious, which they said you have the private numbers that you can call whatever. Because you can have young guys have you say in your country. But it's really terrible, and sometimes the public does feel more for the criminal than the person for the criminal kill. You ever realize that?
Yes, too often. And you see, sometimes, as the Premier just said in his address, a lot of the criminals, a lot of people who are perpetrating these acts are people who we know, people who we grew up with, people who might be related to us, and so there's that tendency, after something has happened and a little time has blown over it, there's that tendency to now think more about the person who would have perpetrated the act while they are going through the court system and so on. And so you see a lot of that. You see a lot of family members and so on who are sticking up for whomever those persons might be. Of course, we know that in our system there is a presumption of innocence until you are actually proven to be guilty. So notwithstanding the fact that in some cases there might be overwhelming evidence, it's very difficult to tell some family members that your family member is the one who was responsible for this heinous crime. Some people choose to never believe something like that, and then in the meantime we see the continuation of these crimes being perpetrated against, in some cases, an innocent child.
But you really see, listen to what happening to Trinidad and them other cases that law enforcement is not playing with the criminals.
Trinidad has had a terrible problem with gangs over many years, and the violence has gone into the sort of music industry. They have a sort of dancehall music industry that seems to have big affiliations with the gangs. And you know what I find remarkable, because I don't really follow it that much. Maybe I'm getting older, I don't know, but I don't really follow it. But you would be amazed at the number of young people, even here in Nevis, who know all of those, you know, gang-related persons, artists, whomever. They know them by name. They know everything about them because they are following them on social media, on Facebook, YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram, and so on. These things have a lot of power, and the things that it seems that a lot of young people are gravitating to as being cool or being fashionable are the persons who are involved in all of these different things. So sometimes when I go among the young people and I hear them talking about different people, calling them by names and so on, and they're saying this person got shot last week or that person got whatever, and it's like it's nothing. And we have some of that culture now creeping into our federation, because we are seeing the same type of things where people are threatening each other over social media and that type of thing. And really, as a society, we have to say that there is no room at all for that type of thing in our society.
You really see that now, like in Trinidad. Now in Trinidad, about 6 persons get shot down by the police. Some weeks ago, a young lady was in it, and because they were robbing, I knew that he making a joke, and it's just sad to see when parents come and see who on the ground, their child on the ground gets shot. The police them have a hard work to do.
Certainly. So what would you like to see happen? What do you think that, you know, we could do? What policy do you think we could implement to assist with the deterrence of these type of violent crimes?
The whole thing, what I could said, is get the parents get together and stand up. If they know the children how they're doing wrong, stand up and tell them they're wrong. That's it come from parents, you know. It's parenting, brother. Because a lot of us, you know, modern parents now, today, they can't tell the youngsters nothing. But they can't tell them nothing. But when again in jail, them is the one who try to find lawyer money to get a lawyer to get them free. So they're the one who have a lot of work to deal with. And also, some people have to meet one-on-one with some youngsters and speak to them too. That's for me. But I don't come out the air and then let somebody start and put it into effect. You know what I mean? Try. You know.
Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate, you know, the call and all of the thoughts and so on. Certainly, we need everybody and their ideas to help us to get out of this, you know. And you make some really good points. Me, as the minister responsible for education here on Nevis, I can understand fully what you're saying, because sometimes I get complaints from the schools, and sometimes stories would come from the schools about, you know, incidents involving children and so on, and you really have to shake your head at them. Let's go back to the lines. We have another caller. Caller, you're on the mark. Good night.
Hi, good evening, Troy. How are you doing?
Good evening. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. This is Mark Brantley. Just calling, as always, to thank you for hosting the show this evening. It's sometimes good to get a little break, and I'm happy that you, as always, stepped up and agreed to host the show this evening. I think it's an interesting show with various topics at hand. I am grateful that I was able to make a statement today, and hopeful that that statement on the issue of crime will at least excite some debate, some discussion in the public and in the body politic. I believe that you referenced the situation in Antigua, want to start my short contribution to the show tonight by also referencing the situation, because, as you say, with a much larger population, their issue is nowhere near as acute as ours has been. And their Prime Minister has come out and made various statements, but what I found was instructive is that one of his harshest critics and perhaps one of his strongest political opponents, the Honorable Asad Michael, came out with a statement this morning pledging his full support to the Prime Minister. And I believe that that really is what I, as leader of the opposition, been trying to do. That I have been trying to say that this issue of crime, really, there's no room for us to engage with it politically. We need to engage with it as one people, understanding that crime is no respect of parties or persons. And I think that that example of Antigua is a good example, because I know I've come under some criticism where persons have suggested that I'm soft because I'm not bashing the government. But I really feel that at the end of the day, the government must be allowed the opportunity to work and do the work for which they've been elected. And the people who are in opposition, who have ideas, must be willing to step up and share those ideas. That speech that I made tonight was not prompted by anybody in government or otherwise. It was prompted by my desire to say, listen, let us get on board, all of us, and share our ideas, share what input we may have. Let them be ventilated and subjected to public scrutiny. And the good ones, we hope, will take root, and those that are not so good will be discarded. But we all need to get on board, and that is my concern, that if we continue to use crime only for politics, if every time something happens, we see how we can get the most salacious headline out as quickly as possible. If we continue to put into our headlines all about crime, it desensitizes our people, but it also leads to a situation where all of us now are at each other's throats. And Troy, if you and I are fighting, we're supposed to be leaders, and we all are leaders in our own right. The criminals are laughing, because it means while we spend time attacking each other, there's less time being focused on them. And I don't want to lose focus on them, because they are the problem, not us. They are the problem, and we are the ones who therefore must confront that problem. So I'm happy that I was able to make that statement, and as I said, I'm hopeful that if nothing else, it will prick the consciousness and debate. We are a country which is not scarce of talent.
Definitely
we have
not.
A lot of people who at home and abroad have the necessary skills, the necessary knowledge that they can help us resolve this problem. St. Kitts is not a big country, and that is one of the things my friends overseas continue to marvel and say, oh, in a little country like y'all can't find these criminals. How in a little country they could be so bold? Somebody must see them. You think somebody could drive from Craddock Road as they did the other day, shoot a young man right there, steps away from the police station, and nobody in the area saw anything? I mean, at the end of the day, I understand. We want to blame people, we want to blame somebody, we want to cuss somebody. But what are we ourselves doing? How often do we see suspicious behavior and do nothing?
Good people would have to do something for this thing to change.
Because many of us try, we whisper. We say, I think it's a boy there, I think it's a girl there, I see a move the other night. But we are not prepared to step up. And I don't like when people say, oh, I can't trust the police, because the truth is that all of us have somebody that we can share information with. If you don't want to go to the police directly, you can go to your pastor, you can go to your politician, you can go to your leader, you can go someplace and share information if you have that desire to bring an end to this. In America, whenever a crime happens, what is the first thing the Americans do? They ask for the public assistance. The first thing they do, because they understand that there is no solution to crime which does not involve the general public. Police can be everywhere, CCTV can't be everywhere. In fact, in America, even when they capture images on CCTV, they throw it up on the 6 o'clock news. And they ask the public, have you seen this person? Do you know this person? They've set up tip lines, Crime Stoppers, you name it. Our people need to shoulder the responsibility and stop this idea that any one man or any one government or any cabinet can solve a societal problem. I made the point tonight, reinforce the point that these criminals come from us. Who are they? They are our neighbors. They're people we went to school with. They're people we know. People we see in tongue and daps. And yes, it is true that a lot of times we don't know what they're involved in, because I think all of us have had the experience that when somebody's attacked, we say, I mean, they're not involved in anything.
Exactly.
Right? But somebody knows. Your previous caller spoke about the parents. And there are parents out there who are 100% committed to defending their bad children, regardless of the consequences. We must own the problem. And I'm not going to join anybody, hand-wringing and bawling and gnashing of teeth, because all of us, the problem has emanated from us, and we must solve it together. And that is really what I was trying to express this evening. I expect, as I say, that there will be some discussion, and that is good. We live in a democracy, but the ideas come forward. Let the leader of PAM, let the leader of FPFP, let the Labour government, let those in an army, those who are independent, let them come forward. Let the churches and the chamber, let them come forward and speak, because the country now more than ever needs all of us. I will leave that try just to make one other point. That is to say that I'm quite proud that on the 1st of September, which is fast approaching, we're going to celebrate 2 years of the introduction of the non-established pension scheme on the island of Nevis for our non-established workers. That for me was a signal achievement of this government that I'm privileged to lead. And I don't think sometimes it gets the attention that it ought to get, because it's all about what we have said as a government that we will do, which is to take care of people. You know, and I know that some workers work for 30, 40 years, but because they were non-established, they got no protection.
Yes, they leave with nothing.
They went home with their two long hands. And this government responded. Because they've been promised, something is being worked on, and we said we could not wait any longer. And 2 years ago, on the 1st of September 2022, coming out of the COVID pandemic, we said, let us put something in place. And under that scheme so far, we have paid out considerable sums to individuals who have gone home with a lump sum and are now getting a little something every month. And I'm very, very proud of that accomplishment, because I think that is the type of result you get when you are a government that cares about people, that seeks to put people first. We have always said that our people matter most, and I believe that the proof of the pudding is in the eating. It is not just saying so, it is showing that that is the case. I continue to encourage those non-established workers to find out what their benefits are, find out what they're entitled to. And certainly I know that some have complained that their money has not come fast enough, but hear what? I prefer that you complain that the money doesn't come fast enough than complain that you don't get anything at all.
That's very true.
Because before we introduced the scheme, you had no complaint to make, other than you got nothing.
Because there was no expectation of getting anything.
So if they have an expectation now, and they complain they didn't get all, or didn't get it fast enough, I apologize for that, but I am happy that at least that is the nature of the complaint now. Because you could not have had that complaint had this government not acted on your behalf and to your benefit.
And
so try kudos to you as well.
It's something I could add, Mark, that has been banded around in the past by, previous persons, but nobody ever actually went and implemented, and it took your government to go and implement.
I don't want you to say your government.
Our government.
You were there and supported the decision 100%. So this cabinet has really been working overtime to make this happen and to ensure that our people get the benefits. And really, at the end of the long after,
You're breaking up a little bit.
I said long after we are gone,
Mm-hmm.
these are the things I'm hopeful that people will remember.
Well, the legacy of that decision will be there for, for in perpetuity, for a long, long time.
Well, I am hopeful because, as I said, people used to go home with nothing. Now, they go home with something, and they get something monthly, which for Nevis is unprecedented. In fact, my heart broke because some people came to see me and said, but why was this not introduced 10, 15 years ago? I left the service then and I did 45 years, and I got nothing. And so I think that we ought to be grateful that we have in place a government that puts our people first. I will leave that and give an opportunity to call, but thank you for entertaining me tonight, and I think the country is faced with some serious issues, and it is time, as I like to say, for serious people.
Certainly.
Serious times demand serious attention from serious people, and this is a time for serious people in our country.
Now is the time for positive action. I want to thank you for that call. That was the Honorable Premier Mark Brantley calling into the On the Mark show. Ladies and gentlemen, we're just about a minute before the 9 o'clock hour. The lines are open. 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Certainly want to thank the Honorable Mark Brantley for that call, and certainly he would have spoken about the non-established pension scheme. This coming September 1st marks the 1 year anniversary since that pension scheme was implemented, and certainly this is one of the positive steps being taken by the Nevis Island administration to ensure that we are supporting the people of Nevis, those who have worked for many years in the public sector, in the public service, but were not considered as civil servants per se. In order to be a civil servant, you have to have a certain level of qualification in order to get into the service, but the government employs quite a number of persons who are referred to as non-established workers, and at the end of their tenure, whether it be 10 years, 15 years, we have some persons who have worked for 25, 30 years, they did not receive a pension when they went home. But now we have changed that. We have a caller on the line. Let's go back to the line. Caller, you're on the mark. Good night.
Good evening, good night.
Good evening. I know this voice very well.
Oh yes, it works.
Yes, it's wonderful to hear from you.
No,
It's wonderful to hear from you. How are you?
Say sheep, no, his voice,
Yes, this is a voice. This is a voice that I love.
Oh yes. And that's all I have left. Can't see, so I've got to use my voice. You got to use what you have.
That's true.
So you don't go in a car and be moon where you don't have.
True. So how are you?
I'm here giving God thanks, and I'm doing my share praying, because a lot of us are under the impression that we could solve everything, but we are now faced with a situation which we can't handle. We're making suggestions, but we're not getting anywhere. So this is a call for serious prayer and repentance, because we want to pray, and then we still live in the same kind of way. Repentance means to turn away from. And some of us we pray, but we're planning our revenge.
Yeah, God knows the heart,
That's what I'm telling you. Because the Bible says, if I regard iniquity in my heart, God ain't gonna hear you. So if you're wishing, I missed Mr. Brantley's speech. I tried Freedom, I tried Win FM. I thought they said we were going to come out and we came out after 4.
It came on at 8. See what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to cue it up. I think the speech is about 6.
Well, he gave the synopsis of it.
6 minutes long. So what I'm going to do at the end of the show, I'm going to take the final, however long the speeches. I'm going to take the final minutes of the show to play it over again.
You know?
Yes.
Now, I have a question to ask. Now, he's the leader of the opposition. I would expect in such a situation that all the members of the opposition would meet together and make one statement. You have PLP on the side, you have PAMAD, a march or whatever protest. But it will become more effective if together they plan what they're going to say. Otherwise, we're still putting out 3 different fronts.
Well, I think
what do you think about that?
In this case, the opposition, there are 3 parties in the opposition. Of course, we have PAM,
but the leader is the leader of the 3.
PLP, and yes, well, CCM.
You see that?
Commands.
Unless he's the leader of the 3, he's only the leader of CCM.
Yes, CCM commands a bigger block of the opposition because we have
only the people from his party.
We have 3. Yes, we have 3 members.
So it coincides that he actually only represented his party.
But he does have the role as the leader of the opposition.
I know the role, but talking about a practical thing.
Yes, I understand where you're coming from, but
I am here to hear Mr. Dr. Harris.
Dr. Harris, I think, would have put out a statement. I've seen a written statement.
This afternoon?
I think so. I would have seen a written statement.
Because I've heard it, because I heard a young man on Sister Sensei's show. I think it was Monday night or sometime last week.
The young man who was the victim last night?
Yeah.
I think he's somebody who I would have met before. I did not know him. I did not know him well. I did not know him well, but he's somebody
I don't know him either.
who I've met
to
before.
Me, like, some young people were planning to start their own party. Is that what he said?
I was not listening to that show on Monday night, so I don't know.
Yeah, I happened to tune in and I heard this young man, well, I don't know how old he is. I know the Pickapay Alley, and he was expressing to Sister Sensei his idea, you know. And next thing I hear the fellow was killed. I said, what is this? Because he said he really didn't like this sort of confusion we having. You know, with the in-party and the out-of-party confusion.
Okay.
And that
I'm told he was on a show last week. He was on a show called Real Talk last week.
With Sister Sensei?
Yeah.
Yeah, I happened to tune in, not at the beginning.
Real Talk with Lavi on Win FM.
Oh, must be that one I heard. Must be the I heard him. That be the I heard him. I was trying to figure out. And I was quite impressed, you know. Because he said that they're going to get a candidate, and then somebody said he was the one for PLP in the same constituency too.
Okay, well, you know, I
said, boy, you know, we have tried everything, you know. But we have not been very effective. Because as the Premier said, people are talking on online, with Facebook or whatever, and what they plan to do and giving threats. I have always said, some people comment after the incident, the CID should investigate them, interview them rather, because they seem to know everything.
Well, the police have the right to go and
interview them.
Stop persons and interview persons, and of course they can ask questions.
Tell us what you know.
That is
because they put it on Facebook. They know who killed what, and they know why he do it. Well, how can the police not say that? They don't have any idea. They themselves should be monitoring the social media. You don't think so?
Yes, of course.
In other countries, that's what they do. Because as soon as somebody gets shot, I don't know, long-term you know, they need to be monitored. I don't mean for mischief, you know. Monitoring the thing. because they have rules and their laws. And they know in some locations where these people congregate.
Mm-hmm.
Now in Jamaica, you might know that they have certain areas that they proclaim to be state of emergency.
Mm-hmm. But
Jamaica does it, you know.
Sylvain,
Not the whole island,
Sylvain, the truth is though that in the intervening years when what became known as the peace program was started, we did see a significant reduction
but there's no question about that.
The number of murders and so on. So we can't say that there is not precedence, for the decrease in crime. We can't say that we don't know what can work, because we have seen something work.
That the people are killed and were not gang members. So what do we have? I am saying we have the old gang members, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they should be approached. They should be approached because they're the ones who came forward and said, look, we're tired of this. Now you're no longer in it. But we have young people. They should be helping the state or the police with accessing the people because they know the complaints. I heard one of them said that this, I think this Coyote something they said was appointed as the intermediary for them.
Mm-hmm.
You see, we're not a police officer. And they said, he said, he's not going out to them. If they want this conflict resolution, they must come to him. And one of them said that they ain't going up no camp. So we got to reach out to people where they are. If they got these problems, and they were accustomed to have intermediaries to help them with the conflict resolution, that should be pursued.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't say, well, if they got things, let them come. They're not going to come. When you go, you're able to meet with the different groups. I am still saying that the people who are prominent in the peace program, we're talking about the older ones,
mm-hmm.
all the gang leaders, they're still alive. They have, maybe most of them have done with it. Haven't done with it. They should be at the stage where they exert some influence on the younger ones. And if they're not in a gang, they have enough intelligence. I don't mean smartness,
Yes, I understand.
Intelligence actually.
Yes.
As to what is going on in the communities. They're more informed than the CID. They should be utilized. They're not working on anybody. But through them, you're able to get to the people and have some peace. Because this is a killing. And you know what is amazing? The way they copy the Jamaicans. I mean, they're going for the head. That's brutal, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to ask if the men to kill. Nobody's shooting in hand and foot now.
Mm-hmm. Well, based on what I heard about the incident that took place last night, I mean, that is like some movie stuff. That's like stuff that you see in the movies where one vehicle pull across another vehicle, stop the vehicle.
That's what they're doing all the time, you know.
And then,
they cut you off, you know.
They come out with rapid fire and so on. There's certainly no room for that in this federation.
Well, that's what I'm telling you. And these songs, my Lord, I don't have to tolerate them and call out to them. You know what you are listening to?
Well, not me, because I don't listen to.
I know, but I live right here. And and carry them in the bush, and they will stick me, so my God, and shoot them in the head, all in the bed.
A song says that?
What?
Oh my!
Where you getting over?
Seriously, I really do not.
But you better ask the young people. I mean, pure murderer songs, you know. Mm-hmm. I said, look, when you all listen to these, you thinking that it influences you. So when you go to kill, you aim it for the head, and you know where to find them. You know, I said, God. But so the last, he talking about they must talk the conscience dead. When you could put a gun and shoot somebody in the head, you have conscience. The chances of surviving is nil. The other one is got a thing in his neck. I don't know how he is doing now.
So there are two persons who would have gotten shot last night.
Yeah, one got killed and one got shot.
Mm-hmm.
Some people say that he was passing the area. I don't know the story though. But it's frightening.
Definitely.
It's not for me, But I mean, when you think about it.
Well, everybody has to now be afraid, because you could be in your home and you don't know what's happening outside or who.
But you know what's amazing?
Somebody might be looking for. Yes.
They don't even hide. 7 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the evening. The people moving about.
Yeah, it's
And this is robbing story. Let me get to the robbing now. The robbery. The whole chamber and the business sector need to speak up. Now they may be saying, well, they only robbing the Chinese. Darling, when they don't rob up, all the Chinese are coming for you, They're coming for you. Because, well, they're not of us. Because one of them said on the radio, they don't mind the robbery as long as they don't rob our people. I condemn that. So they don't mind who they rob as long as they ain't black people. How could you condone that? It's like you don't mind who they kill as long as they're killing only black people. That is the attitude too, We don't mind who they kill as long as they ain't kill the tourists. Yes, that's the attitude. Well, they ain't kill nobody for me. And we have to take another look at our expatriates. What are they involved in? The other day a Jamaican was in one stick up a supermarket in Sandy Point. Talking in Jamaican thing. Mr. My God, we got to get serious. And it is obvious that all of these legislation we're talking about, they mean nothing.
What do you think about the suggestion?
And the 25 years.
What do you think about the suggestion from the Premier?
What did he say?
To be able to, instead of only holding for 72 hours, to increase that to 7 days, where you can hold someone for 7 days for questioning and so on.
You know the log, eh?
Yeah, but he was suggesting changing the legislation.
So what would that do?
Well, for one, it would enable you to hold somebody for an extended period of time to question them and gather the evidence that you need. Because in the case of some of these persons, once they're on the street, then they can influence persons who are witnesses and so on. A lot of witness intimidation and those type of things
Did you hear what happened
go on.
the other day in this search of the prison?
No, I'm not aware. I'm not aware.
The army also went in and searched the prison sometime last month. I think it's late. They found telephones, chargers, SIM card. You understand? Jamaica and all that said, when they had the slaughter the other day, I think it was 8 get killed and 9 get wounded, whichever way. That was orchestrated abroad in New York. And the contract was sent to the prison, who then recruited the people to go and do the act. So what they're saying that a lot of these killings that we have are contract killing, instigated from abroad or from the prison. Now when you raid the prison, you find these phones. They must have information. They don't come back and say nothing. Somebody calling somebody, they must have names. You understand what I'm saying?
That is true.
So a lot of them say a lot of these things are orchestrated. Because they say these kind of killings and the rapidity of it is not our culture.
Not at all.
So they have to take a secret look at the prison. Because it is known, they send out the orders. I mean, who coming out could bring it out? To go after other people. So they leave you amazed as to what exactly is going on. They know too. But we up and down doing it, we're going in the parliament and making all kind of rules. It's like a joke, the day after the party, 45 years, they are kidding. How many we have had since then? Or we toughen the laws. They don't care. They don't make up their mind that they're going to do what they have to do. And it all only God could help us right now, you know.
True.
And the parties need to get together.
Yes,
So,
that I definitely agree with.
Yeah, I mean, the Premier says the thing about the government. This require more than cooperation, you know. This require more than it require a demand that the government do something.
Well, of course, the government needs to act, and the premier, the premier has put the ball squarely in the court of the prime minister and his government to
imagine that people dying like the man gone on vacation.
When the people would have voted for the government, one of the things that persons would have voted for is for a safe and secure federation. We can do nothing. The economics and all of those things don't make sense if the country is not safe.
That's true.
So one of the most important things is to have a safe environment.
I said it already. You got all this bloodletting going on. May talk about one this month or one next month. One last week, two last week, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The honorable, I like him, you know, but he heard you get up gone on vacation. When it used to be the BlackBerry, it's now what? It's now iPhone one in the place. And then to burden down Minister Handy. When you pass on that on top, he has a lot of load to carry, you know. You have read that?
Mm-hmm.
Some he has education.
Yes.
He has housing. He has a lot social. You know, he has a lot for himself. But you know it was planned. How he come home for the funeral yesterday? So you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I understand.
He went to Ghost funeral. He came off it, and all the time people dying and getting killed. And he somewhere, I suppose he was too stressed. Because he could wear out there.
Yes, of course it can.
He could wear out every morning, you wake up to hear one gone. And you say, boy, I try my best, you know. I don't even know what to do. But
well,
something got to be done.
You know, at the end of the day, when you put yourself up and you say, hey, I want to be the leader, or I am the person to take care of this, then you can succumb to stress, you know. And you can be running away and set the time stress because you say, I am the person. So you got to step up.
It was planned.
Mm-hmm.
How does that square? It was planned.
But,
and the numbers keep climbing.
But you know that no man is an island, or no woman is an island. And certainly they can lean on others for assistance.
That's what I'm saying.
The Premier has put out a very what I would say practical set of ideas in his presentation, and I'm sure there are others who have good ideas. So I would say that
what's the number for Nevis? How many have been killed in Nevis? 3?
In Nevis it's 4, and we had the 2 divisions who would have been victims over on St. Kitts. So 6 divisions, 4 of which would have happened on the island of Nevis. So of
this thing is frightening, man, and we can't be excusing what's happening all over the place. That may be so. It's here we live.
Yes, of course. And
but it becomes an excuse, you know. It's happening in the Caribbean.
And we've seen it reduced before. So it's not like we have not seen it being reduced.
But you see, when is the same party in power has been negating it, and some of the proponents calling all of them gangster. Now if some of them change, how can you expect cooperation from those who have changed?
Sylvine, I have a few other people who are trying to get in, so
yes,
you can certainly call me back a little bit later, and you know it's always good to talk to you.
Back, but I will be listening when as I said near the end to hear what you said.
People don't know that we go back a long way, and so I will always give you a long run on the radio. Well, I don't mind what people say. I certainly value you. You have taught me a lot.
Bad things happen when good
Yes.
people keep quiet.
A lot of the ways that I approach things, especially when it comes to information and so on, and how I deal with information.
Yeah.
A lot of the ways how I approach information is how I learn from you. So
When you're talking, you don't know the facts and the stuff
yes,
to go with it.
definitely, and I get all of that from you. So
Anyway, I encourage all of
I always
people.
appreciate hearing from you.
Yes,
Okay,
I'm encouraging all people to pray for the country. All of you who instigating and glad it's happening, you may come by your door. May come by my door. You can't be rejoicing when other people crying.
Certainly not.
One country. So God help us. All right then.
Okay, thank you very much, and you have a wonderful night. Good to hear from you. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to On The Mark with your host, Troy Liburd, this evening. We're having a wonderful show so far. The lines are open. The numbers to call, 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Let's go back to the line. We have a caller. Caller, you are On The Mark. Good night.
Good evening, Troy. How are you
Good
doing?
evening. Of course, I know this voice, and Van Radio knows this voice, and the whole of Nevis knows this voice.
I would think so. I wanted to call in. I wanted to call in to add my voice as well to the voices that have called before, and of course, I wanted first and foremost to congratulate the premier on the very what should I say, comprehensive and speech that he would have made earlier this evening with regards to crime and violence in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. All of us as right-thinking nationals and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis should raise our voices, because it has gone entirely too far, Troy.
Definitely.
It has gone too far. Too many people are hurting, and this is happening just too fast. It's almost like every night something is happening, and we have to recognize that this thing is affecting everybody. St. Kitts Nevis is a very small society. I had a little argument with someone, I think it was last week. The person was trying to convince me that if you're not involved in anything, you have absolutely nothing to fear. But that cannot be true, because I told the person, these criminals are so brazen now. Once they mean they're going to kill somebody, irrespective of who is close to that person, they're going to do it. And you may be at the wrong place at the wrong time. You just might be close to a target, and you're not even aware that person is a target. And you get caught in the crossfire. And so when we have these situations where people are so brazen and so notorious and they don't care, they do it any hour of the day, any hour of the night, everybody has to be in fear. Everybody has to be fearful. Because as I said, you don't know what could happen close to you. And these bullets have no eyes. And so you could be shooting at someone and you may not even catch that person. But 2 or 3 other persons who might be passing by, might be driving by, might be walking by, might be exercising, that person could get caught. And so all of us are to be fearful, and all of us are to condemn crime and criminality and criminals. We are too. And the thing is, Troy, almost everybody is related in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Yes, one family.
And so sometimes when people are killing each other, they are killing their own relatives, and they may not even be aware. They are killing their own cousin, and they may not be aware of the situation. Because I know sometimes when certain things happen, especially when people die or when somebody's getting married, when you hear who is related to each other, you can't even believe. You see people walking along the street all the time, you can't believe those two persons are related. They may even be related to you. And so the situation is, in a small society like what we have in St. Kitts and Nevis, where so many people are related and they don't even know, you may have persons actually killing their active close relatives. And this crime is affecting everybody. Everybody. Of course, we know how heavily we depend on tourism. And if crime affects tourism,
Doesn't sound good.
tourism affects almost every family in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And so it is affecting all of us. And so I think it is incumbent on all of us as right-thinking persons in the Federation to join our voices. This thing needs all hands on deck. It needs all voices on deck. It needs all of us to sing from the same hymn sheet.
Definitely.
That we are tired of this thing. We can't be waking up every morning to hear somebody else dead. Somebody else got killed. And this thing is try. I would have made the point sometime recently that we have had so many deaths naturally in St. Kitts and Nevis in the recent past. We are going to a funeral almost every day, and there are already so many natural deaths. People are grieving so much from natural deaths from their family members. And then to compound the situation, you have so many persons now who have to grieve because somebody was killed senselessly. And I really want to call on our young people and call on everyone, because some of the persons who are committing crime not so young either. There's some maybe in the 40s and 50s and 60s, we don't know. So I'm calling on all who might be involved in crime to please. And I keep wondering, when people commit a murder, how do they sleep at night?
How they feel? Exactly.
You kill a 9-year-old and you go home to sleep?
No heart.
And you go home to sleep? I keep saying, when people are thinking about doing these crimes, they go to sleep, probably go to sleep at night thinking about how I'm going to commit this crime. When you get up, can't you change your mind? When you get into your vehicle to go, can't you change your mind? On your way to the scene of where you're going to commit the crime, can't you change your mind? When you arrive at the scene where you're going to commit the crime, can't you change your mind? I don't know. I mean, I really can't comprehend how people could think about killing somebody and get up and go and do the act and go back home and gang lie down like nothing happened. I can't comprehend it. I can't comprehend it at all. And we have truly lost our way. And we need everybody, politicians, ordinary citizens, civil society, the churches, the schools, everybody have to do their part. Because this is a situation that has been created by society. Has been created, I'm calling on the parents as well, because you have
the parents have a big part to play.
Huge part to play. I don't know what's going to happen to the generations to come, because in reality, try, the children nowadays are the ones who are ruling the home. They're the ones who are running things in the home. They are the ones who are running things in the home. And so parents, you all need to wake up. All of us in this society in St. Kitts and Nevis need to wake up and try. I'm going to probably leave some time for somebody else to call in, but I'm going to say something else, right? It's going to be controversial, and I'm going to get some licks for this. I'm going to probably get some cost for this as well. But when we condemn crime and criminality and criminals, we should condemn them irrespective of who they are and where they're from. If we're going to condemn crime and criminality and criminals in St. Kitts and Nevis, we should condemn it anywhere else that it happens. And as I said, I think we have lost our way to some extent. The caller a while ago spoke about some of the lyrics in some of the songs and so on. And if we are going to condemn crime and criminals and criminality here, irrespective of who you are, we should condemn it. I was amazed during Culturama that persons were saying, bring Vibes Cartel for the Emancipation Concert. Now, I have nothing against Vibes Cartel. Now, we have to recognize, and it is a fact, that Vibes Cartel just got out of prison, but he is a convicted criminal. He was convicted in the courts in Jamaica. And that needs to sink into people's brain, I don't know whether or not he committed the crime because I wasn't there. So I don't know whether or not he committed the crime. But the fact is, in Jamaica, the courts convicted him of the crime of murder. And if governments, I hope the federal government is listening, if governments are going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to hire a convicted murderer, whether it's from Jamaica, from Barbados, from Trinidad, from the US, from wherever, it shows that you're condemning crime and criminality. And as I said, I don't know whether or not he committed the crime. I don't know whether he did it. But the fact is, he was convicted. And people need to look at these things. Because if you're not going to condone criminals here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, why should you decide, well, I'm going to pay $300 to go see a criminal from another country if the criminal is brought here? And as I said, I know it's going to be controversial because I know a lot of people love Vibes Carter. I have nothing against him. But you cannot run away from the fact that he was convicted in the courts. And as I say, I'm not talking about him per se, I'm talking about this in general. If somebody was convicted of murder in Barbados, irrespective if that person is an entertainer, if that person was convicted, if Marshall was convicted of murder in Trinidad, we shouldn't be paying money to bring Marshall here. Mm-hmm. You were convicted of a crime in your country. And so these are the kind of things we need to take hard decisions on. Governments have to make hard decisions sometimes. Definitely. And you may be under pressure to say, well, person may say we want to see this artist in the lineup for music festival. But as a government, you have to lead by example.
Yes, and we have to be careful what we promote.
Precisely, you have to lead by example. And you can't be condemning your criminal in your own country and not condemning a criminal in another country. So irrespective of where the person is from, whether he's from Trinidad, Barbados, Guyana, Jamaica, the United States, England, Australia, wherever, we need to look at people's record when we are hiring them to come to perform. And as I said, I want to say once again, all of us should join forces together, join our voices together. Whatever we need to do, we need to stamp out this criminality from amongst us. It's affecting all of us. It's affecting too many people. It's about time people stop bail for their family members who are gunned down. Mm-hmm. And so once again, I'm calling on those of you who are thinking of committing crimes, those who may have committed crimes before, it's time to lay the weapons down. It's time to lay the weapons down. Let's come together in love in this small federation, St. Kitts and Nevis. Over 20 murders.
Yeah, that's not good at all.
Way too much. Mm-hmm. Way too much. And so I think the churches need to have a lot of work to do because we need some serious prayer in St. Kitts and Nevis. We need some serious prayer.
Yes, people need to get back closer to God.
Yes, we need some serious prayer. And whatever we need to do, we need to come together. We need to heal this nation of this scourge, this terrible scourge that is affecting us. We need to get over this hump. And I'm hoping and praying that we don't have any more murders for the rest of 2024. We've had more than enough for the year so far. So I want to thank you for accommodating me. And as I said, I know part of what I said is going to be controversial, but that's life. Thank you and good night.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Eric Evelyn, and I heard the passion in your voice. Do we have another caller? Okay, the lines are still open. 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. I could hear the passion in the voice of the Honorable Eric Evelyn as he would have spoken. Certainly, we know that a lot of persons even here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis and pretty much all around the region were tuned into the whole Vibes Cartel saga. He has appealed over many years, and finally, I think it's earlier this month, the authorities in Jamaica would have decided not to pursue retrial, and so therefore he would have been released from prison after the Privy Council would have quashed the previous conviction that they had against him. And the truth be told, quite a lot of the lyrics and a lot of the rhetoric from some of the musicians in the region and some of the more popular musicians in the region, expose a lot of violence and particularly gun violence. We have a lot of songs that speak to gun violence, and those are what the young people are listening to. And what I have noticed is that it's almost as if every generation that comes, they want to one up the generation before, and so the songs are even more how to put it, the songs are even more out there, they're even more outlandish than what the generation before would have sung, because a song that was considered to be outrageous 20 years ago, that's like a common and ordinary song now, and that's not considered to be something that is pushing the envelope. The songs now that push the envelope, are songs that I can't even speak about. So I personally, I'm old-fashioned. I like to listen to what people call old-fashioned music now. When I was young, those music were the cutting-edge music, but now they're old, and so I have stuck with stuff from the early mid-late 90s and from a little bit of the early 2000s. I don't really listen much music after that, maybe one or two songs from somebody like Rihanna. But I'm not so much into the gangster music and that type of music that the young people now are listening to. And we might feel like, oh, it's just music, but those things, they influence some people. They don't influence everybody. Not everybody is going to go and take up a gun, but the one or two or the 10 individuals that are influenced, those could create a problem for the entire society. Because if you look around and you look at our society, we are about 50,000 persons strong, and it's not 50,000 of us or even 30,000 of us that are out there picking up guns and doing things. It's just a few persons. We have a caller on the line, so let's go back to the line. Caller, you're on the mark. Good night.
Good night, sir. How are you doing?
Good night. I'm wonderful. How are you doing?
I really want to take a task with this whole hypocrisy and crocodile tears that your politicians playing this whole thing, this violence, because in my research, this violence has a political and a racist tone behind it. And if we don't jointly call on the United States to stop intervening and destabilizing these Caribbean countries, we are spinning the top in mud. We want to throw all the pressure on the youth them. Yes, they're guilty of one pulling the trigger, but there's a process. They didn't make themselves into criminals. The authorities drop the ball. Number one, they drop the ball when they let a lot of stupidness happen. Police involved in criminality. The whole link. And now we want to go down and kill all the youths and when they do something, but want to the big people. In 1995, a leader of a political party was warned by the then author of the observer, Mr. Bramble, of bringing this violence to St. Kitts. After he started to suffer the loss in the election, go and look on the tape. It's recorded. And now everybody looking at all the youth them. The United States was caught in 2019 with guns and drones and mercenaries in Haiti. And they checked them back without even facing one day in court. I mean, tell me, all these civilians in the country, and we send the youth, we send the foreign hand. The foreign hand that is financing team unity, that finance team unity, the same hand that was caught bringing the guns them in Southeast Peninsula. And we never asked them for the distribute the gun to. We never. Because we could have go back and make them pick back up every one of them.
I can't really substantiate some of the things that you are saying. So if you can substantiate,
do the research. Anybody who can do research, because it's the unrecorded. The evidence is there for the guns and the peninsula when we let the man free. The evidence is there that they bring the drones in IT and they destabilize the whole Caribbean because it's racist. We can't go on if we don't that we live in a world without racism. America is a racist country, and they'll do anything to destabilize the country. Now the Caribbean, this is generally be left leading. America is a right-wing country, and to maintain control over these countries, to destabilize these countries, that the puppet can get in power. Again, one farmer government means to draw your and say one time, oh, the shooting only stopped because the killers they run out of bullets. When I do my investigation was right, we get that information from. You could tell me? There's a lot of things that go on here, but people speak on the thing because they want to sound popular with the foreign and cover up for the foreign hand that is instigating this violence. 13 years ago, my brother was killed. That wasn't enough to stop. My brother, 13 years, gone in front of his house. It should have been an alarm there. When Inspector Brandy raised the alarm in the police coming to news and clandestine interfere, there should be an alarm there, but now everybody shut them out. When the chief of police introduced false evidence into a murder case in St. Kitts to get a conviction, everybody shut them out. We hypocritical and crying crocodile tears when all this could have been stopped long time ago. All it could have been stopped long time ago. But we know it benefits some because it's stable in the country, we call it. They're doing good counteracting crime. Make a political issue out of it. It's a political issue, and it was a political issue. And it will remain a political issue because the guns didn't come here by accident. They came to destabilize the whole region. And they think it wasn't a thing. Dr. Denzel Douglas was a victim of that because he had one aid and they don't let no country lead in the left. And they send the guns and they pay the
Caller, I'm giving you the opportunity to speak, of course, because
the whole narrative.
Everybody's opinion is important. But you know, let's not make statements that we can't corroborate or we can't substantiate.
I'm showing you where to go to look for them. I'm showing you where to go to look for the evidence. You don't have to corroborate. Go and look for the evidence. Which evidence you want me to corroborate?
So caller, let me ask you a question. I want to ask you a question. You let me ask you a question.
Go back to the state charter in 1947. When they founded the CIA, they have a political objective in the founding, and that is to get right-wing parties in power. That's why they can't say what Jamaica is today. Because of the 1979 guns they introduced to shoot Edward Santiago into power in Jamaica. Look back Chile. Kissinger boasting that they could not allow South America to come into communism. So they bomb a president out of power. Look at the bombing of the airplane in Barbados. Just because Barbados established diplomatic ties with Cuba 50 years ago. That's terrorist organization. Terrorist violence in the Caribbean sponsored by the great United States. Everybody's silent. It's just the youth, them alone. No, it's not the youth. The United States sent back Patrick Connor to St. Kitts as part of the stabilizing move. Go and see.
Okay, caller. So
over the country. And now we watching like, oh, it's the youth them. It's a culture that was exported to us. And we failing to let the blame really at who's supposed to be blamed, but nobody's supposed to blame.
So here's what we're gonna do, caller. You've had a good long run. So what I want to ask you, so
what's you telling me?
I mean on the radio, of course.
Eh?
So what I want to know is, you're saying that the youths who are out there involved and perpetrating these crimes, that they are not responsible for the crimes that they are committing.
They are manipulated into doing these things. Manipulated.
Okay.
And if you want to go and so read books, but the diet that prevent them from having proper brain development.
Okay.
This garbage food that they allow to come into our country and distribute to the youth.
So they've eaten something different from you and I.
Of course, the diet is different. You don't know that.
Okay.
You don't know that. You go and look and see what they eat on a daily basis and see what quality food, what the chemicals, all the vital chemicals in the food today is be removed. That's why the art of the book called Nutricide. Go and read that book.
Okay.
Nutricide, the nutrition instruction of people. I must read and stop jump to conclusion and regurgitate the garbage from up north.
Alright, Carla, well, you've had a good long run, but we're gonna have to leave it there. Okay.
And when you talk it.
Yeah, but you know the time is running down to an end now, and we have only about 10 minutes to go before we close off the show. So we want to give some others the opportunity to call in. Okay, caller. So you have a wonderful night, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to On the Mark, Straight Talk Across the Narrows. This is Troy Liburd, your host for tonight. We have just about 10 minutes more to go. So if you're going to call in now, and we're going to replay the statement by the Honorable Premier. The statement is how many minutes long? Statement is 10 minutes long. So this is probably the last opportunity for a last word for anyone who would wish to call in to share their opinion this evening. Of course, we've been talking about the spate of violent crime in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and more specifically we have been focusing on the proliferation of murders. We have had 26 murders in the Federation thus far this year, and of course we are saying that this is the time for action. It is time that we put up and we decide that as a people that we will not tolerate these violent crimes in our federation. We will not tolerate the gun activity and so on, and that we will respect the sanctity of life here in the federation. And so I guess I'll do my little wrap up now, and then we will go back into the statement by the Honorable Premier to end the show. So if you didn't catch the show tonight, of course the show is going to be replayed tomorrow at 1 p.m. and I just want to wish everybody in the federation the very best. I was given something to advertise, so let me see if I can find it quickly before we go into the actual speech by the Honorable Premier. Just bear with me for 1 second. Okay, yes, here we go. So we have what we call an Identity Expo, and it's a youth drama that you cannot afford to miss. So come out and support the youth, and this is going to be happening on Sunday, August 25th, and it's going to be at the NIPAC from 5 p.m. So it's Agnola Productions and the Church of God Eden Brown Theatre Company. They present Identity Expo. So on Sunday afternoon we're going to have some drama by some young people representing Agnola Productions and the Church of God Eden Brown. Identity Expo, and that's 5 p.m. at NIPAC. Also on the weekend we should have some cricket at ETW Park. We will have St. Kitts versus Nevis on Saturday at 2 p.m. and then on Sunday a combined St. Kitts Nevis team, they will take on the St. Kitts Nevis Patriots. So we are right on the 10-minute mark, so let's go back now to the presentation by the Honorable Premier.
My fellow Kitishans, Nevisians, and residents, I speak to you now with a heavy heart. Last evening our country lost yet another young man in what now seems to be a never-ending cycle of youth-on-youth violence. I believe I speak for all honest, hard-working, right-thinking members of our country when I say that this vortex of crime and violence gripping our country is unprecedented and unacceptable. Whilst crime spirals with almost daily news of brazen attacks, the government and the police seem incapable of responding, and our communities are gripped by fear. I have not joined the chorus of blame on the issue of crime. I have not sought to use crime as a political tool. I have said and continue to say that if we as leaders argue over crime, if we continue to be divided over crime, if we continue to see crime as a political opportunity, then we succeed only in weakening our resolve and emboldening these criminals. To this end, I am pleased to say that prior to this address, I spoke at length to Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, the Honorable Dr. Terence Dew, and I also spoke to Mrs. Natasha Gray Brooks, the leader of the People's Action Movement. I thank them both for reaching out and expressing their willingness to come together to lend our collective voices and hearts to this fight. Crime is and has always been a societal problem. Who are the criminals? They are our sons and daughters. They are our brothers and sisters. They are our cousins and classmates. They are our boyfriends and girlfriends. In short, the criminals have come from our midst. We have created them, and we must now find ways to purge them from our midst. My address to you this evening comes not from a place of blame or political grandstanding. It comes from a place of deep pain and a burning desire to raise my voice in the rescue effort for my country. At this time and in this situation, our country demands that each and every patriot rise up to defend it from the scourge that has now gripped us. All must be invited to the table with their ideas and solutions. None must be left out. Government and opposition, church and chamber, schools and civil society, all must be invited to the table to come up with a comprehensive plan to address violence in our society once and for all. Crime is now a clear and present danger to the gains we have made as a young nation. The enemies are at the gate, and men and women of goodwill from Cayon to Cotton Ground must put aside petty political and personal differences and stand together to repel this attack on our country. Our Prime Minister and his cabinet cannot and will not solve this problem alone. St. Kitts and Nevis now needs every able-bodied man and woman to man the ramparts and defeat this enemy that threatens to engulf us all. The current situation is unprecedented. Hitherto, our most murderous year was 2011, when we had some 34 persons killed. We are now at 26, and it's only August. At this pace, and unless arrested, our country is on a track to have its bloodiest year in history. We are now seeing women and even young children being targeted by violent criminals. My brothers and sisters, we have crossed the Rubicon of old and entered a new and dangerous period in our history. It is clear to me that blaming each other is not working, and that nice speeches without action are not working. It is also clear that the current levels of violence in our society are well outside the capacity of our security forces to handle. Unprecedented threats demand unprecedented responses. It cannot and should not be business as usual. I offer, therefore, these points for consideration. We should immediately invite regional and international assistance. The RSS must be deployed in our communities, and we should seek intelligence support from the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, and Israel. Our friends in the United States must be called upon to do more to restrict the flow of illegal guns and ammunition from their country to ours. We must introduce a top-to-bottom review of our security forces to weed out bad elements. There should be mandatory and ongoing polygraph testing for all police, army, customs, and prison officials. We must target known criminals and their associates and ensure that they have no respite and no places to hide. All leave and holiday for our security forces should be immediately cancelled. Our policemen and women must not be in the comfort of their homes or barracks, but deployed into the communities. We must deploy greater physical and electronic surveillance tools so that our crime fighting response is led by more technology and intelligence gathering. We must immediately reintroduce moral and ethical instruction in our schools, starting at preschool and continuing throughout our children's school life. This must be coupled with the reintroduction of youth groups in our schools, such as Boy Scouts, Girl Guides, Pathfinders, Cadet Corps. Our children's participation in youth groups should become a mandatory part of our curriculum. We must reintroduce an aggressive alternative pathway program. The new program, whether called Peace, Elevate, or by whatever name, must emphasize that those marginalized youth who genuinely wish to be productive citizens will be supported with jobs and economic opportunity. We must not pay people to stay home and not work. We must not reward bad behavior. Any new version of the alternative pathway program must insist that those who benefit personally are also bringing benefits to the community at large. I am here talking about jobs, providing seed capital to start businesses, expunging criminal records to assist former offenders with job opportunities in the private sector, inviting and incentivizing the private sector to play its part in giving these young men and women a second chance, providing free training, especially in vocational skills such as plumbing, air conditioning, electrical, auto mechanic, shade house agriculture, and agro-processing for our youth. We should amend the anti-gang legislation to allow police to detain suspected gang members and their affiliates for up to 7 days without charge while investigations are ongoing. The current 72-hour maximum detention without charge is wholly inadequate to allow proper investigations to occur. We should look to the Jamaican example of zones of special operations to include limited and targeted states of emergency where necessary. Lastly, I reiterate my cry that the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of National Security must extend his hand across the political aisle and seek consensus and active assistance from the opposition. As leader of the opposition and as Premier of Nevis, I and my team stand ready, willing, able, and eager to assist. But we cannot invite ourselves to the table. Only the government can ensure that all stakeholders are given a chance to lend their voices and ideas to a solution to this perennial problem of crime and criminality. The matters set out in this brief address are in no way to be seen as a complete solution. But these are ideas which, coupled with ideas from other stakeholders, can allow us to build a comprehensive response to an urgent and dangerous problem. Some ideas will require urgent and immediate implementation, while others are intended to have more medium and long-term effects. What I am sure of, however, is that doing nothing is no longer an option. I extend tonight my hand and the hand of my beloved Nevis to the Honorable Prime Minister and his team. There can be no progress and no lasting and sustainable development unless and until we are at peace. We have shed enough tears. We have spoken enough words. We have held enough meetings. What our country needs now is decisive leadership and action. Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Terence Joe, the ball is now in your court. May God grant you wisdom, patience, and understanding as you lead us through the valley of the shadow of death and take us to the promised land of peace and prosperity for all. Thank you, and may God have mercy on us all.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the